Don't like doing those revenue bonds.
Yeah.
It is 6:32. This is Trophy Club, Municipal Utility District Number 1. It is March 22nd, 2023. And again, it's 6:32. We do have a quorum. All directors are present. And I'm calling the meeting to order. Citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any comments made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear comments on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 4 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officers. To speak during this item, you must complete the speaker's form. It looks like this. It's over on the table. That includes the topics of your statement. Citizens' comments should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. Steve, do you want to talk now?
I did it during the item.
Okay.
Actual item.
Okay. Anybody else, Laura? Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Reports and updates. 1, staff reports. Capital improvement projects. B, water operations. C, wastewater system reports. And D, finance reports. Alan?
Good evening, directors. A few updates tonight. The FY 2022 waterline project has been completed. The FY 2023 waterline project is currently in the bidding process, and we anticipate vetting out those bids and bringing that request for award during next month's regular meeting. The pump station improvement project, the design is 60% complete, and we plan on bidding for that in July. The membrane bioreactor piping improvements, we finally received the parts for that. Construction is in process, and the piping for number 1, MBR trains number 1 and number 2 have been completed already, and we anticipate the other 3 being complete by the end of March. Lift station number 1, we're finally making some headway with that project, and we hope that the contractor is completed that project and out by early April. We have the startup of the new equipment and generator scheduled for March 28th, so we're looking to get that one wrapped up and get things cleaned up out there at the golf course as well. A few other things, the FY 23 wastewater improvements, we do have a contract for repairs being requested tonight. And then once we get that approval from you all, then we'll give them the notice to proceed, and hopefully it'll only take a month or 2 to get the majority of those repairs done and taken care of. The FY 2023 lift station improvements, we do have the majority of the materials on site, and we decided to go ahead and add an additional permanent bypass in at that location because it did not have one previously. And once we get the remaining parts in, then we'll go ahead and schedule to get those repairs and parts in place and schedule to have dewatering done as part of that project. So other than that, don't have any other updates for you.
Okay, so the repairs to the wastewater treatment plant you mentioned, are those the last of it, or are we going to keep nickel and diming that?
No, at this time, that's the only thing that we have remaining to fix those fluctuation issues that they were having.
Okay.
Now, there are some other improvements that we may be looking at adding as far as how the chemical treatment process is for maintaining those MBRs, but we're going to look at that as part of another budgeting item this next year.
Okay, and then all the construction, everything you mentioned last meeting is complete down on the courts?
That's correct. Okay. That's correct. That's the FY 2022 project, yes.
And then I know we don't manage it, but we finance the equipment on the fire station. That pump truck is up and active. They had to roll in, so
Correct.
That's all on board now, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Agenda item 2 is consider an act to approve the consent agenda. A, February 2023 combined financials. B, February 15th, 2023, regular meeting minutes, and C, March 10th, 2023, special meeting minutes. Do I have any requests to remove any of those? I see none, so we're going to be voting on A, B, and C. Everybody understand that? Okay, so I'll take a motion to vote on A, B, and C of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through C.
Director Rose makes a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Vice President Brewster. Any discussion? And no one's taking any off, so all in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, moving right along. 3, regular session, Community Education Initiative update. And this would be you, I guess, Mr. Brewster, and Doug, you're in that too, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
I'll go ahead and take that if you'd
Oh,
like.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
during the last meeting, if you all recall, Mr. Brewster requested that we get an update on the Community Education Initiative program. So to remind everyone, as part of this process, we voted out a few different firms and tried to determine who we might like to utilize for this process. And Foreman Furnace is the firm that we use. We've utilized them in the past, and the district has before I even started here. And I would like to introduce Mr. Steve Derman with Foreman Furnace, and he has a presentation that he would like to share with you tonight. You go make sure that's pulled up, please.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure how this technology is going to work.
She's going to go make sure that that's pulled up for you.
Thank you. Well, while that's happening, I'll just introduce myself. Alan, you did a very good job. My name's Steve Derman. It's a pleasure to be here to update you guys on how this program's going. I'm the founder and creative director of an agency based out of Grapevine, Texas called Foreman Furnace. In a nutshell, we provide creative services in the areas of branding, marketing, and advertising. In the past, we've done the last 2 versions of the district's website. We created the branding for the district, so the logo on the wall behind you is our design as well. And this community awareness program is something that we've been happy to be and excited to be a part of since October of last year. I did prepare some slides, so hopefully they'll be up in front of you here in a minute.
We'll
Do
get
you have
that
any
pulled up.
popcorn or anything?
No,
Bring slides, got to bring popcorn.
right?
Those seconds.
Okay. Will I be able to advance the slide? I wish I knew some jokes. I'd keep you guys entertained here for a few minutes.
Do any good dad jokes?
You got a warm-up act or anything? Song
I
and
don't.
dance,
Sorry.
magic show?
Left my harmonica at home.
Yeah.
You've got quite a resume. Can you give us a thumbnail sketch of where you've come from?
Yeah. So my background is in graphic design. I grew up in New Jersey. My career started out there in Atlantic City, New Jersey, of all places. Moved out here in 2020 and got into some advertising agencies in Dallas, worked as creative director across a multitude of different industries, and then assembled my own team. And in 2008, for the last 15 years, we've been doing what we do based out of Grapevine.
Great.
Yeah.
That's it.
If we need to, I can do my best to tell the story without the slides up.
You can,
Poster board?
yeah,
Old school.
you can stick figures and stuff in it.
We could all gather around my laptop.
Maybe we could ask a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
How are we going to measure the effectiveness of this program?
Great question. And we'll see here in the slides here in a minute, which are, looks like they're about to be up for us. We're measuring through engagement and how many people we're able to reach and are seeing our content, as well as how many people are engaging with it, sharing it, liking it, commenting on it, and those types of actions. When we have done some activities in channels off of social media, so we did some mail inserts, bill inserts that went in with the bills. We were able to track those by QR codes that we put on the bill inserts, which allowed us to see exactly how many people scanned those. And I have those metrics here. So is this, if I hit up and down, is this going to work? I don't have it on the screen. Okay. And do I need to turn this on as well? Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Brilliant.
It's technology and Murphy's Law.
This, I feel like, has an on button somewhere. There it is. Let's try now. There we go. All right, we're rocking and rolling. So we started the program back in October of last year, so about 6 months ago. And the goals of the program are to educate the residents of Trophy Club about what's going on with the district, just where their water comes from, where it goes, those sorts of things. We want to be able to have a channel by which we can drive situational awareness to the customers as well. So pipes freezing, smoke testing, any time we need to push out an alert because something's going on with the water system. Everything that we discuss and all of the information we put out, we're kind of wrapping in this idea of eco-sustainability. So we want people to understand that the district takes that very seriously, and the steps that the district goes through to promote sustainability in their daily operations, but also how the community can contribute to that as well. So providing kind of tips and education around that topic. And then just general customer support, reaffirming that we're here 24/7 for emergencies and we're easy to get a hold of, and that we're really here to support the customers. And as I mentioned a moment ago, the two primary channels that we're engaging customers in are Facebook, as well as we've gone into the mailbox once or twice with bill inserts to kind of test that and see what the efficacy of that channel would be. So as we get, by the way, if I go too fast, just cut me off, and I'm happy to reiterate something or answer any questions. As we get into the performance of what we've been doing, this is an example of a bill insert that we put in with a monthly bill. You can see the QR code on there. Many of you probably saw this come across through your mailbox as well. We got 111 hits on that QR code, which was decent, but we haven't used the bill insert since because we just feel like it didn't really add much of a lift over what we're doing in Facebook. And then speaking of what we're doing in Facebook, since the program started, we've been able to reach almost 4,100 individual Facebook users. So that's individual accounts in the Trophy Club area, as well as drive over 2,300 visits back to our Facebook page. So these are folks who saw something that we posted and came back to see what else we had there in that channel for them. And you can see some of the peaks and valleys that are around, back when we first launched. Obviously, there's a little bit of a peak and reach there. As we're getting into December, we had a couple things going on. We were launching a new billing system, and that drove a lot of traffic, and we were keeping people up to date on that, as well as some weather, freezing pipe alerts were going out. And then as we get into kind of just more recently, we had some smoke testing that was happening, and we were seeing a lot of engagement there as well. So we're able to see kind of the peaks and what's working and what's not working in terms of what we're putting out there messaging-wise.
How do you capture those numbers?
These come straight from Facebook. So Facebook gives us a dashboard as a page owner that we can go in and look at how each individual piece of content performs. We can see how many people have shared it, who's shared it, how much lift those shares has given that piece of content. And I will say that, as we started this page fresh, there wasn't an existing page that we built off of. So in October, we opened a new page with 0 likes, 0 follows. And so in the last 6 months, it's been extraordinarily helpful when folks who see our content share it, because we don't have a lot of organic reach yet. We can't just post something and lots of people see it. Where we really get that reach is when somebody who has their own personal audience hits that share button and then broadcasts that to their audience. It does two things. A, it opens us up to their audience, but B, it tells Facebook, this content is interesting, so we're going to show it to people a little bit more often. And so we've consistently seen that when interested parties share our content, it gets a tremendous amount of extra eyeballs on it.
Thank you.
And a little bit more metrics here. This is, again, coming out of Facebook's dashboard. It's helpful to see, especially since we're 6 months in, comparing the first 90 days to the second 90 days to see, are we building traction? Is there momentum behind what we're doing? And the numbers tell us that there are. So if we look at the 90 days prior to the last 90 days, our engagement is up 63%, which just means people are reading, liking, and sharing our content 63% more, so at an increasing rate. And the amount of people we've been able to reach period over period has also increased by 35%. So we've got some momentum behind the program, and it's building some traction there. So we want to make sure to capitalize on that. Here's some of these are actually our 3 most popular posts. What I like about this is that we've kind of got a couple different types of content here. We've got an announcement, this was our first save the date for the new payment portal that went out. We saw 1.4 thousand people were reached with that. We had an operational announcement where we were kind of preparing folks to understand what's going on with the smoke testing. So we kind of alerted them to that was happening and what they can expect coming from the smoke testing so that there wasn't confusion if they saw smoke coming out of different areas. And then there was this situational kind of off the cuff. We'll talk about this in a minute. I have it in a slide that's coming up, but we always leave ourselves open in our monthly calendar of planned activities to react to situations that are happening. And so this is a good example, protect your pipes. We had a freeze, and so we sent out some information that alerted people that that was coming and what they could do to make sure that they didn't have any issues. And then video content. We've produced 3 videos so far. The first video was kind of a introduction to who is the district. We saw 403 people watch that video, and 27 engagement was 27, so essentially 27 likes on that content. The second video was a little bit shorter and it was more educational. It was, where does your water come from? We saw 567, so a little bit more because we've built a little bit of that traction. And then video 3, which is our most recent one, came out a couple weeks ago, which is, where does your wastewater go when it leaves your home? Again, informing people just so that they understand all of the work and operations that goes into that.
Yeah, I assume that they started too late to win Oscars or anything on that, right?
We didn't. I'm hoping next year we'll
Okay.
get submitted
Okay,
for that.
good. Okay.
We do have a best supporting or best leading actor for sure in our videos. You got my vote.
Didn't come with an increase in pay either.
And so I'm not going to expect you guys to read what's on the screen now, and I'm not going to read it to you, but I might call out just a couple highlights. This is our actual activity to date. So you'll see that we keep a record of everything we've posted. That's obviously in the dashboard that Facebook provides as well, but we just keep our own record for that so that we have that handy, and you can see all of the activity in here. This includes our planned activity as well as our kind of reactionary activity and alerts and updates and notices. Things like fats, oils, and greases in December, kind of leading up to the holidays. We were talking about rate change back in November, alerting customers to the pipeline analysis yearly project, so the smoke testing and these things that were happening, and alerting customers to those annual activities. So just a nice list of content. You can see how much content we've put into this awareness program over the last 5 or 6 months. And then as we get into planned activity, this is the proposed activity for March through June. We have a meeting once a month, first Monday of the month. At minimum, Alan and I sit down for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and plan through what are the messaging priorities for the month, and what are we going to put out there? What are we going to do for our video of the month, our tip of the month? What else is happening operationally that we should plan to put updates out for? So this is kind of what we've got in the queue. It's a working list every month, really multiple times a month. We talk about updating it. And then we also want to account for those off-the-cuff situational updates that we need to really react quickly to and push out. So you'll see that if we look at these 4 months after their actually deployed, the list will probably be twice as long at least.
I have a quick question on that future activity.
Sure.
Are we, is it TRW that has the free irrigation sprinkler checkup?
Parent Regional Water District.
Yeah,
So
TRWD.
actually, going back to, if you'll pay attention to the April,
May.
on April 4th, we actually are aligned to meet with the 7th grade class on April 4th. So they're having I don't think it's called an Earth Day, but they're having an outdoor learning day. Northwest ISD has a outdoor learning center. I think it was an old dude ranch that they were able to acquire. So they're going to be out working at that outdoor learning center during the day. They've got 2 class periods at the end of the day with nothing planned. So I reached out to them and said, hey, we'd like to come into the school, introduce ourselves, and talk about conservation and eco-sustainability. It happened to line perfectly. Today we had a conversation with Tarrant Regional Water District, which not only provides the free irrigation system checkup for the district customers that request it, but also they're going to come in after me and they're going to do an interactive game with the kids as far as educational program that they already have pre-built. So it's kind of good for me. That's less that I have to try to fill as far as talking about what we do and keeping those kids entertained, if you will, but they're going to follow suit and have some sort of game or activity pre-planned, and hopefully that goes off without a hitch.
But the reason for my question is I wanted to make sure that we press that information out to the residents so they know that they can get that free sprinkler evaluation.
On April, that's one of our videos. We're going to talk about irrigation system checkups and programming, and actually one of the individuals we plan on working with is Scott Fuller at the Country Club. He is a local resident, and I already asked if he would be our voice for irrigation systems, and we'll have a conversation with him and talk about certain things, and then we'll piece the videos together that we'll share with folks.
Well, this is other than video. This is where we contact them, and then they come to your house and check all your sprinkler systems out, make sure that they're operating, make sure that they're spraying in the correct direction, discuss heads, discuss timing, and that type thing. They when they came to my place, they even adjusted the timer zones to go to a water soak system as opposed to just turn it on and run it for 20 minutes. So, and that's been several years ago, and if they're still doing that, it's very valuable.
Yeah, I had that done in my house too for a year ago, and they helped a lot. Because I had some sprinklers that I thought they were all equal, but they're not. They all have different rates of irrigation. It's important for us that the percentage of water usage in the community is so much higher for irrigation than anything else.
Yeah.
What's the percentage, Alan?
Irrigation?
For
irrigation. During the winter months, we'll be at 1.5 to 2 million gallons, and then during the summer, we've seen peak demands 6.5 to 7.5 million.
Yeah.
So it's a substantial amount.
What's the percent number in the summer?
300%. I don't even think it's that much.
1.5 to 7.5.
What is that?
300 over 300.
300%? 300% difference then.
It also allows the residents to water more efficiently and keep a better yard as far as coverage. They check the coverages to make sure there's overlap in areas and not too much overlap for that matter, like you water in the concrete rather than the grass.
Right.
So they're very beneficial, and the service is free. They use it as a marketing tool, obviously. You know, they'll give you some estimates or something in replacing things, but you can't go wrong with a free estimate.
There was no pressure. When the fellow that came to my house, there was absolutely no pressure
Yeah.
to buy or change or anything.
Mr. Chairman, people in the audience are saying they can't hear us.
Yeah, we need to make sure we have our microphones pulled towards us,
And
please.
mine's like, keep getting close.
Testing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we leave that, would you want to go over Scott's background, and we're going to capture him on videotape, so this will be in our library and usable for future classes and available.
Correct. That's the intent, is to create part of the video diary that we plan on putting on our Facebook, or on our, not only that we share on Facebook, but we'll end up putting one on our website as well. Scott is a background. He's a resident. He's had many, many years in golf course irrigation and maintenance and operations. So he definitely knows and understands the business. He knows grasses and fertilization and when to irrigate, when not to. Steve and I have also talked about a few other things. This waterisawesome.com has a lot of resources that we're going to share and push out. And there are also some other resources that we're going to share where you can sign up and it'll tell you based off of the amount of rain in your area how much you should irrigate for the week. So it's a little bit more interactive. You can type in your address and it'll give you suggestions.
I'd like to ask something regarding engagement, please.
Yeah.
Could you please go back to the slide? I'll let you know.
Was it one of these?
No, you passed it.
It was the video?
Okay, so I'm looking at the videos here on Facebook. Not literally, but the 3 videos. And you're showing on video 1, 27 likes is what you had mentioned. I'm looking at all 3 videos, and there's a total of 5 likes between all 3. So, oh, sorry. Talking to the microphone. Where did the number 27 come from for 27 likes?
So engagement includes likes, comments, and it's at least likes plus comments. So I'm trying to access my dashboard right here so that I can get you a direct answer. If I can't do that, I can follow up and give you a little bit more detailed of what the engagement numbers are comprised of.
Okay, so video 1, introducing your Trophy Club mud. 13 weeks ago, I'm showing here 291 views and 3 likes. Video 2, I'm showing 328 views and 2 likes. Video 3, 271 views, no likes. So I'm just wondering where your numbers are coming from.
Are you showing, does it show you a number of shares as well?
Yes, and
So
I
what
want to
you're
say
not
it was
s-
a total of, between all 3 videos, I want to say 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe a total 11. And I know I shared 2. I know Bill shared several.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just wondering where your numbers are coming from.
The reach and the engagement includes all the shares. So if somebody shared the video and that got likes and comments, that's going to contribute to the engagement number. You're not going to see that just on our video on our page because that exists. It's an instance of our video that has its own quantity of likes and comments that all ladder up to that one engagement number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you
So
ever report something like Google Analytics?
we have Google Analytics installed on the website. Meta has their own analytics for what happens within their Facebook and Instagram walled gardens.
I was just wondering because you can see target in where people focus their attention when they go to the Facebook page. You know, do they go to the videos? Do they go to, alerts and things like that?
Right. Yeah, we're not pulling Facebook Analytics into Google Analytics. We're just leveraging Google Analytics for the website and Meta Analytics for what's happening on Facebook.
Okay. Do you want to get into introduction or his background you mentioned? Or, you said,
He's gonna, we're gonna see the videos, right?
No, we don't have those pre-programmed, no, sir.
Oh,
No, those are all available on our Facebook site, and we didn't pre-program those, no, sir.
he said he didn't bring popcorn, so you knew there wasn't going to be videos. Okay. You got to put the 2 together. No popcorn, no video. Okay. Anything else, Alan, on this, or?
Not unless you all have something to add.
No, it's.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
it's
and if
beneficial.
you do want more specific numbers, I have the dashboard here. I can provide those at any time. I'm happy to.
Okay, thank you.
It probably wouldn't hurt to just, give it to Alan if we can look at it, throw it in the packet, so every month we can see
Sure.
how it's doing, the exposure, what things are getting a lot of views and what things aren't.
Yeah, Alan and I review that as a part of our first Monday of the month meeting every month, but I can easily make a snapshot of that and then
Yeah,
email
that
it
he can
for
just throw in
distribution.
the agenda and stuff, part of the report.
Very good.
One more thing you got to do, Alan.
Okay, that's fine.
Easy for you.
And just a suggestion, when you do that 7th grade presentation, if you could get like an exit review from, the kids, see if they put it out and what they enjoyed about it and what they didn't like about it or what could be improved on it.
Okay.
Like bring ice cream or cookies or something.
Survey Monkey.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
And these two guys are the ones
need me to
that
do anything?
put all this or watch it.
Okay.
So if you have any complaints, Ben Brewster and Doug Harper. Okay. Next is discussion of possible action regarding annual winter average analysis. Chris, nice to see you again.
Good
Looking
evening,
fit.
Mr. President, members of the board. Chris Eckert with NewGen Strategies and Solutions. Pleasure to be with you again. We do this same time every year. We look at winter averaging. I will try and make this as painless as possible for you this evening, but a little bit of background. If I can back up one slide there. Oh, I think I messed it up. All right, here we go. Okay, so winter average water use. Why do we look at winter average water use? When you look at wastewater, how do we bill for wastewater? We don't have wastewater meters, so we don't meter the amount of wastewater that goes back into the system. That's not feasible, it's not cost effective. So we base our wastewater billings based on winter average water use. This came out of the last rate challenge that the district had. This was agreed to in a settlement document. So we are following a legal framework agreed to by the board, by the district's customers, as part of that proceeding. And so that's what you're going to see tonight as we follow this methodology. We are following that settlement framework. And I'm going to try not to mess this up here. All right, can I take over from here?
Should be able to.
Okay. All right. So as we look at fiscal year 23, we provided some history as far as the residential winter average. You can see going back 5 years, it's been fairly steady. Last year was higher, and you're going to see some weather data that correlates with that in just a second. But the average of the averages has gone down just under 2% over the years, since last year. We're 6,983 gallons for the residential average this year. Commercial volumes have gone up year over year in terms of total volumes. On the commercial side, we base our wastewater billings on all water use, not just a winter average. That is an industry standard practice that we look at there. But again, you can see that is up to about 94 million gallons now. Do want to draw your attention back to March 2020 through February 2021. You can see the impact of COVID. The board was concerned when we talked about this at that time. We were very careful with action taken during that time. We wanted to wait and see what happened after COVID. As you can see, our commercial volumes have returned to historical levels there. So the impact of COVID has definitely diminished and gone away at this point. Plant flow did decrease slightly, approximately 0.4% year over year, and I'll show you why that's important here in just a second. So as we look at the volumes, again, on the residential side, we take that winter average water use by account, that's unique to each account, and we actually flow that through a tiered block system. And so you can see that each of those tiers that are outlined there on the screen, they have all gone down as you look at that. So again, 387 last year, 371 this year. Commercial water use, as I said, has gone up. Plant flow has gone down slightly. So the weather impact on the winter months, really looking at the chart there on the right, or excuse me, the graph on the right-hand side. Last winter, very dry. Our winter average was up. You can see we've moved that dot further to the right because our precipitation has gone up year over year in terms of the winter period. But again, not just a huge difference in the overall usage. As I'll remind you, winter average is impacted by yard irrigation. We have some people that do irrigate and water during the winter. Some people water their foundations during the winter. And so a winter average, there is some outdoor watering that does get captured in that. That's because we live in Texas. That's just how it is. So as we go and we start looking at how this impacts rates, we start with what we call our revenue requirement. This is established by the board as part of the budgeting process. The revenue requirement is the amount of money we need to generate through rates. Our sewer revenue requirement, based on our budget, just under $3.8 million. We then go in and we look at what have we already billed so far this year. That's 1.5, a little over 1.5 million. So for the remainder of the year, we need to capture that $2.247 million. Our minimum charge right now is $22.15. We're estimated to get just under $750,000 from that minimum charge. That leaves just under $1.5 million that needs to be captured on the volumetric charge. And again, we're looking at the volumetric charge because we're resetting the billed units. When you think about a fraction, very simply, it's dollars divided by units. Our units are changing, our dollars are not, so that then results in a change to the result of that fraction. We do go in and we allocate this flow. We allocate the revenue requirement between residential and commercial customers. Again, this comes back to that settlement agreement. We start with plant flow. We back out infiltration and inflow. This is an estimate of infiltration and inflow. What this is rainwater that's getting into our wastewater system. It's any kind of groundwater that's seeping up into our wastewater pipes. That is an estimate. 8% we feel is fairly accurate. There's no way to know exactly what that number is, so we do make an assumption there, but we're using 8%. We then back out commercial consumption, and everything left is considered attributable to residential. We use this calculation to strike the ratios that you see on the right-hand side. 71% residential, 29% commercial. This has been very consistent over the years. I think at one time it was 72-28, so this has really not changed. But we use those ratios to allocate the revenue requirement between commercial and residential. So again, you see what those dollars are there at the bottom. Those are our target dollars that we are trying to hit in our volumetric rate calculation. So once we get that, we then go in and we start figuring out what does the commercial volumetric rate need to be, what does the residential rate need to be. And so I'll take you to the commercial calculation here. Right now, that unit rate for commercial wastewater is $6.78. All things being equal, that is an under recovery or insufficient revenue of $92,364. To make up that difference, we need to increase the commercial wastewater rate from $6.78 to $8.57. Again, it's a flow-through calculation from the methodology trying to make sure that commercial covers their allocated revenue requirement, residential covers theirs as well. So what is the impact of this change? Going from $6.78 to $8.57, we have presented some sample bills here. You see 5,000 gallon increments there, 5, 10, 16, 5, 20, and 25,000 gallons. You see what the change is in the monthly wastewater bill. This is just the wastewater bill, not changing anything on the water side. This is just the wastewater bill that we're changing here for commercial customers. 10,000 gallons, just as an example, that's $17.95 a month increase based on that amount of flow. And again, this would be the impact to commercial customers. With that, we then go to residential. On the residential side, you can see the under recovery is less than $3,000 this year. You can see what the current rates are there between those tiers, $3.57 all the way up to $10.22. As we look at this number, less than $3,000, that's a rounding error, ultimately, when we're looking at rates. You could certainly come in and adjust residential rates, but it's less than a penny. Our recommendation is you don't do anything with residential rates at this time. Keep them where they are. Again, less than $3,000 is the difference here. You certainly could adjust that rate, but it's our recommendation that you leave residential rates where they are right now. So then to recap, maintain your revenue allocation percentage, 71-29 between residential and commercial. As I said, that's been very consistent over the years. We're not recommending a change to residential wastewater rates. We are recommending that change on the commercial side. Again, that's going from $6.78 per thousand to $8.57 per thousand gallons. So if I can, let me stop there and see what questions there are about the wastewater analysis.
If, I got a question. On the commercial side, if the number's the 72 or 71, and then the commercial is the other remaining balance, how come there's such a big increase required in the commercial side?
So again, it's all units. There are less units on the commercial side.
Okay.
There are less volumes.
And that comes to my question about where, obviously, our friends across the street are slowly, doing their own water and wastewater. Larry North is leveled and being rebuilt. All water will be through Westlake and sewer, for that matter. Is that affecting these numbers for the commercial that are in Trophy Club? Because we've had a lot of commercial at the front.
I'm not sure that Chris knows that answer, but Larry North has been out of service since April. I think they decommissioned their site in April and pulled their meter in April. So these actual flow amounts have increased since last year. So it's showing that Larry North does not have a significant impact on this.
Okay, and where's the biggest unit change then? At the front?
Do you know exactly? We would have to go back and try to determine exactly what commercial accounts are the biggest unit. The biggest thing I attribute it to, there are more commercial. There is more commercial now since PD 30 is now fuller than it was before, and it's also post-COVID, and people are going back to normal. That's the only thing that I can attribute it to at this time. I can't. We didn't go through here and pull every single account to see which specific accounts.
Yeah, I'd just like to know where the units are changing. I don't need to know every one of them, but if in the future, if we could get a report on that to show, where these units are changing on the commercial side.
Each account?
No, just give me like the top 10 or 20 or something like that. But on the residential side, if we keep the rates the same, I mean, that's great. But if we want more visibility on the Facebook page, we could raise those rates, right? And I'm sure everyone will go to Facebook.
If you want visibility, you can certainly raise the rates.
Nice.
Again, that's not my recommendation this evening. Let me be clear on that.
I didn't think it would be.
No, that rounding error. Chris, on the commercial side, as you went through that, I think that's about $1.80 difference.
Yes, sir.
So what that tells me is that our going in point, when we entered into the year last year, when we did these rates, that's a difference. If we'd had a 90-cent change at that point all the way through, we wouldn't be doing now, at this point, doing what I would consider a catch-up.
That's correct.
But, yeah.
That's correct. And again, as I said, the board was very careful with COVID.
Yep.
The board has been very careful with rate action over the years. As you indicate, this is a bit of a catch-up through that process.
Yep.
Good point.
Do you ever present comparative data with other towns?
We do. We certainly can. If that's the board's pleasure, we can put that together. I will say, and I've said this to the board before, anytime you look at a comparison, it is not an apples to apples comparison because every town is different. Every district is different. I have some clients that actually use property tax to subsidize the utility. Other areas use, different funding mechanisms. They use impact fees. Some utilities use a lot of ARPA funds that they built in, and they're using that for capital. So there's any number of differences that go into those rate calculations. It can certainly be informative, but it is not apples to apples.
It's difficult to compare a municipal utility district to a town water rate because, as you just mentioned, they inflate the water rate to generate revenue to pay for other things.
I'm not going to categorically state that, but it does happen. It does happen.
I know.
Yeah.
There's someone very close to us that happened.
I remember prior presentations where there were comparisons between different utilities or different towns around, and I can remember your quote.
Yes.
It's not apples to apples, and when you get down into it, when you start digging into it, it's just so varied that It's literally of little value because one place may be in a reconstruction phase and doing bonds and or working those issues to pay for infrastructure improvements, and another one may be in a place where they're not doing any bonds, and it gets to the point where you really can't tell what you've got, and you really can't get a good comparison. So I've got to where when somebody says, I want to compare my rates with what's across the street, I flinch.
Understand.
Well, this is my first time through the rate exercise, and I noticed on page 14 of your presentation that you've listed a number of entities and their reuse fees.
Yes, sir.
And I'm curious, I would guess the same variabilities apply there because there's a big range between one that charges 21 cents per 1,000 gallons, it appears, and others that are over $2. So I'm wondering, that was the basis for my question.
Okay. And if I can go ahead and address that.
Yeah.
So we do have some reuse information for you. Yeah. And the problem with reuse is it's a bit of a new area in terms of selling wastewater effluent. It's becoming more popular. More districts, more cities are recognizing that that's a commodity. That's a commodity that they can sell. The problem is pricing reuse. There is frankly, there's a yuck factor. When people think about reuse, ideally the concept behind reuse is you are getting a different product and you want to incentivize people to use that product. So naturally you are pricing that product below cost. There's a number of reasons you're pricing it below cost. One is because of the incentive, but also when you think about a reuse system, reuse systems are more recently installed versus our water and wastewater systems. So when we think about how we price water and wastewater service, we price it on an embedded cost basis. What does it cost us? What did it cost us to put it in the ground? What does it cost us to provide that service? We're not actually charging for the product. When you really think about it, we are charging for the treatment, we are charging for the transmission, the distribution. You do pay Fort Worth Water for the product, but again, you're paying them for the treatment, the transmission. You're not paying a value for that water in a reservoir necessarily. So as we think about that from an embedded cost basis, because our reuse systems are more recently installed and the volumes are a lot less that we're selling, again, as I said before, rates are dollars divided by units. It's a fraction. Because our volumes are much lower and our embedded cost is higher, we could not charge cost basis for reuse and still incentivize its use. Because on a per unit basis, it would actually be higher than our potable water rate. So then how do we come in and set a reuse water rate? Well, it comes back to that incentivization or incentivizing. How do we incentivize people to use it? It has to be priced below the potable water rate. And this is done differently in every community that's out there. I've seen communities charge 10% of the potable water rate, some 80% of the potable water rate. The calculation I looked at, you were charging the country club 80 cents per 1,000 gallons. When you compare that to the potable water rate, that's a 90% discount. Is that correct? 90% discount on the water. Right. So again, it's good. It's a good thing to sell your reuse water, sell your wastewater effluent, because ultimately you're making your potable water source last longer because you're not dumping potable water on the ground. Mm-hmm. But ideally, it's just a matter of how much can we get for it in terms of incentivizing that use. I wish I had a better method, better model that says this is the way to price reuse, but it really is just kind of all over the board. And the variability of which you speak on this slide, it's even greater on this slide than it is just in basic water and wastewater service.
By far.
Oh, substantially by far.
I found it interesting that Bourne uses a box system that
Right.
disincentivizes the use of the water. I mean, I looked at that and went, wait a minute, what are you doing here?
Right.
As I went through this, kind of averaged up the numbers, I was still trying to look to find something, if there's any standard around that says, well, 35%'s the right number, 47%, 50, 80, but I didn't see anything like that. And so basically what you're doing, I mean, it's a product that has a demand.
Yes.
It has a valid use. It is much cheaper than using water. I mean, put it on the grass. Country Club does a great job of that. So the question becomes, I mean, if you look at that particular income factor, it's coming out of the wastewater system, so in some ways it's offsetting your wastewater costs. I still am struggling to find a correct answer, frankly.
It really becomes a policy decision, and it's interesting you mentioned that, you know, the product is coming out of the wastewater system, but when you really think about it, the benefit, you could say, is on the water side.
Yeah.
Because it's sustaining your water source. It's
Yes.
it's reducing your need for that marginal cost, that next unit of potable water. So ultimately then, you know, is this service subsidized? Yes, it is subsidized. Who should pay that subsidy? The water customers who are getting the benefit of sustaining a longer-term water source? Should it be the wastewater customers from where the commodity is coming? All these are key policy decisions that you as the board get to make when you're thinking about this. I will tell you that reuse water, more and more utilities are seeing this as a commodity. And the pricing of this will become even more important as we move into the future. So it is good to think about those policy implications. Right now, we're still young as far as reuse goes, and it's a matter of how can we monetize it as best we can. But these will be some very important policy decisions in the long term.
Yeah. I was looking at a percentage of the rate structure or something like that. And here again, I
All
don't
over the board.
I don't have a valid number that I can put someplace and justify it any further than I could validate another one. You know,
Correct.
11%, 15%. It's strictly a toss of the coin.
And I also asked Chris to add this slide because during the budget process, the budget committee members requested to at least take a look at our rates and compare them to others. And I felt this is a relevant time to do that. So you all could see that going into this next budget cycle, whether or not y'all want to look at making any changes. This would be a good time to give us direction before we get to the budget process. So that's one reason I wanted him to bring you all up to speed on that.
Yes, good.
What's the contract time now with the golf course on the reusable water?
My understanding is there is no end date. I would have to go and
I
open
didn't know
actual
if we had
contract.
a set rate or we increase it every year.
It's a flat rate right now that I think was adjusted how many years ago?
2015, I think was the last one, if I remember right.
And it was increased, I believe, but that was the last time it's been touched.
And they buy pretty much whatever we can put out, right?
As needed, yes. As much as we can treat out of the end of the plant, they will purchase as needed based off of rainfall and temperatures.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Chris? I see none. Thank you very much,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Nice seeing you
Appreciate it.
again.
If you find that number, let me know, please.
Yes, sir, will do. I'll bring my Magic 8 Ball next time.
AWWA or any help will help. Anything will help.
Okay, everyone heard Chris's recommendations on the changes and what I got out of it. Residential stay the same and commercial to increase by the amount he stated. So this calls for possible action. Do we need to vote or take it on?
Action will be the next item, please.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's what I thought. Okay. Moving on. Thanks again, Chris, for coming. 5, consider an act to adopt rate order number 2023-0322A as in alpha, establishing policies, procedures, and rates, fees, and charges for water and sewer services. Okay, do you want to go through the changes real quick on the rate order, because there's some red lines?
We can go through these. Generally, we try to provide a synopsis. The two majority changes that we have are, these include Chris's recommendations of increasing commercial rates. And the second is this also incorporates all of the requested changes to deposit amounts discussed during last meeting. And so I wanted to make sure y'all understood that all of those changes are now modified in this proposed rate order. We did also change residential fire lines, connections, and fees to quote them at time of request. Same thing with water and sewer tap fees. Temporary construction service meters, we updated the language and fee amounts. Our water meter fees also increased. Our sewer service rates increased on the commercial side as discussed and recommended. The security deposits were updated. The deposit amount, deposit refunds, and deposit requirement for disconnection as directed by the board during last month's meeting. Also, the billing procedures, we updated that deposit amount as you all directed. So essentially, if someone is disconnected for service, they'll have to provide another deposit, and their 24 months starts over essentially.
Chris, those rates are on the page 10, right? They're the recommendations in each level, like the 897, 1795, is that correct?
It does reflect his recommendation, yes.
Yeah, I just, whoever makes the motion, if they would put the dollar amount in there, it'd be beneficial, so.
Or you can approve as presented.
Yeah, but I'd want it on tape, like, just, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 5.
What page are you on?
Page 10 of Chris's presentation.
Oh, it's working off the packet.
Oh, it's page, yeah, I went off page 10. Let me see. I'll just give you what I have on page 10. It's 5,000
What page?
of
Page
Chris's
10
package.
of the packet.
10 to 15.
Page 9 is the commercial rate, going from 678 to 857. Residential rate's not changing. So when
Right.
you look at page 10, that's just sample bills.
Okay.
It's not related to the rate.
Okay, so all we need is the
All you need is just the
857.
So, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You got that, Bill?
Yeah.
And then residential, nothing.
Yep.
Okay, so just FYI. Okay, on the, one thing I saw on the rate order was obviously we have the $100 deposit.
Correct.
And then we have a lot of things that are going to, as quoted.
That's correct.
That used to be, is that correct, Mike?
Yeah.
That's correct. The only reason we're moving towards that is because the price fluctuation of everything now. I mean, it's hard to put something in our rate order and then we're actually losing money on it, when we go install it in the field.
Right, just a 10,000-foot overview is the $100 deposit is to cover the average billing. Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
And then the deposit will be returned after 24 months of no disconnects.
That's correct.
Right?
That's
If
correct.
you have a disconnect, you'll be required to do a deposit plus the connect fee.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just make sure everybody understands.
Director Rose, that's on page 41 of the packet.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's
everybody
commercial sewer rate.
understand what we're going to take action on 5? Okay, so I read it. I'll entertain a motion
Before you make the motion, I have a couple other things.
for changes. Do you want to
Yep,
make the motion
yep.
and then do discussion, or?
Well,
Do you-
I don't know whether you want to incorporate all the discussion items into the standard, into a motion
Okay,
and
just
say
go
as
ahead.
discussed, or you
Yeah,
want to?
okay, just go
do
ahead.
amendment. Okay, if you go to page, let me get this down. Go to page 35. And this is a verbiage change. On section 102, it says, quoted at the time of the request and are payable. That should be is, because we're talking about the cost. The cost is singular, so is the correct term there. If you go down to the next paragraph, you
Okay,
can have
Lori, are
this.
you documenting these as you talk?
Yeah, she's already got them.
Okay,
She's got them. If you go down to the next paragraph, you have the same thing in there at the very bottom sentence of that one where it's are, that should be is. if you go to page 18, I'm sorry, not 18, that's page 43.
You could actually just say "and payable" rather than "is" or "are."
Okay.
43.
If you're on page 43 now, the residential and leasing deposits, the last sentence says, upon discontinuation of service, the deposit shall be applied against amounts due, including disconnect fees. There may not be a deposit on file at that time, so I want to change where it says upon disconnection of the service, change the to say any remaining deposit shall be applied against amounts due, including disconnect fees. And that will preclude a problem in that area. On page 44, in item B, 6 lines up from the bottom of item B, is the word after hours. That should be split into 2 words. After hours isn't the same.
You got too much time there, Bill.
And that's all I've got. So, those are all in, Lori already has all of those. And I will move to approve or adopt rate order number 2023-0322A, establishing policies and procedures and rates, fees and charges for water and sewer services, increasing the commercial rate to $8.57 per thousand on sewer, and incorporating the other items that we've discussed, which are already included in the document.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Okay, got a second by Vice President Brewster. You need to step up again next time. Okay. Okay, everyone understand? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? You have something?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor, show of hands. Okay, unanimous. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item number 6, consider an act regarding approval of contract number 2023-032201 with Clean Pipe for wastewater collection system repairs.
You want to take it?
I don't mind. Good evening, directors. So this agenda item right here is for the rehabilitation of our collection system that came out of our fiscal year 2022 annual wastewater system analysis. As a couple people were talking earlier, Steve, about putting out the notices for all the smoke testing. They do, heavy cleaning every year for us, and they give us a report every year. So last year we took our report, the report that Pipeline Analysis gave us, and we went out and kind of double checked everything, checked manholes, checked lines, did some cameraing of ourselves to just reinforce what their report was. And we kind of did dwindle a few things down that, of course they put way up, we need this action. And we were like, no, we think we could, do this and we will be fine. Some of it was the manhole rehabilitation. We did a lot of wiping of manholes instead of just throwing coatings on them. We could make a lot of repairs. So that's what this contract is. It's taking that annual wastewater system analysis, putting it into the clean pipe system, that they will come out and actually do all these repairs for us that come out of that annual wastewater analysis system. And we're planning on doing this annually because we are in another year of Pipeline Analysis doing our annual wastewater collection system analysis now in just a different basin. So this is actually in basins, I believe, 1 and 5. So it does come, as you can see, it is going to be some point repairs. Some of it is going to be actually digging up and repairing pipe. Some of it's going to be repair in place. We're going to do a lot of manhole rehabilitation, some heavy cleaning, and then they'll do some post CCTVing for all these repairs too.
So a couple other things I'd like to add. When we did the master planning of the wastewater system a few years back, we identified one of the key priorities is making sure we maintain the system properly. So at the time, we had roughly 14,000 feet of pipe that we knew that was clay. Those are most subject to deterioration and failure. So we did a smoke testing analysis of that only just to see how the program went and if we were going to go ahead and create a long-term process. This repair includes 2 years worth of analysis.
Okay.
So what I want to point out is essentially this is about 70,000 feet of evaluation that we've done compared to years past that were not done or CCTV cleaned, smoke tested. Another thing too is we were roughly looking at replacing over a 10-year period $650,000 a year worth of clay pipe. So by doing these processes and looking at our system in a different way, we're able to go out and make $190,000 worth of repair instead of potentially $1-2 million worth of pipe that's only covering the clay portions.
Yeah.
So this is an extremely proactive measure that's been utilized before, and I'm very happy because this does include the older sections of our city or town, and I'm happy with the results. Another thing too is this is a not to exceed amount. So as we get into manholes and the hours taken to wipe manholes or do certain things, if we're able to save some time and man-hour cost, we'll see that on the back end as well.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to award contract number 2023-03-2201 for wastewater collection system repairs to Clean Pipe for an amount not to exceed $190,000 and authorize the general manager to execute any necessary documents.
Perfect. Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Okay, Secretary Treasurer Harper seconds. Okay, any further discussion?
He writes the big checks.
Yeah, I know. Big money over here. Any further discussion? Tracy? Nothing?
No.
Okay. All in favor, show of hands? Okay, unanimous. Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 7. Can you guys hear? Yeah, I didn't think so, because usually I hear feedback. Are these, yeah, but I don't think the speakers are turned up.
The speakers are on. We just have to speak into the microphones.
Okay, usually I can hear myself out. in
Want
the
me to
audience.
give another testing?
Right. Okay. 7, discussion and possible action regarding First Amendment to amended and restated contract for wholesale water and wastewater to the town of Trophy Club.
Yes, Director. So if I can turn your attention to page 58 of the packet. So I believe it was back in January the last time you all saw this map. I provided this map to you all as a topic of discussion. Town Council has also seen this map as well. So drawing your attention to the maroon or reddish looking areas, currently those are areas that are unserved, neither by the town or the district. So essentially what this amendment is going to do is provide the ability for the town to provide services, amending this ILA and allowing for these developments to be served by the town as part of their town boundary service area. So the amendment that you see before you has both legal counsel's review and entertain any questions.
Okay, so just in a short summary, these are out of Mud District properties, out of PID District properties, but they're within the town borders.
Correct.
Okay. So my question is, when the PID was created, we gave them, they obviously paid through a bond that was passed by the developer. They are paying an assessment fee. Is that correct?
There is a PID assessment tied
Based
to
on-
the lots themselves,
Right,
yes.
based on probably 5 lot sizes or something like that. So the PID is currently paying for any infrastructure that's services their PID area. And the properties that are listed here are mostly like gas wells, empty properties next to, by the dog park there. So are they contributing to the infrastructure that they're using from the PID that the PID residents are paying for?
These will be unassociated to the PID. The PID was a financial means established to pay for the infrastructure of the PID. These lots, the developer is upfronting the cost for the infrastructure necessary and essentially will donate that to the town.
Which the town owns the PID infrastructure now, but
That is all town-owned infrastructure.
But the PID
yes.
residents are paying through an assessment fee for the infrastructure that was put in 2007 or something like that.
Okay, yes.
So, yeah, that's the only problem I have is, I mean, we can, allow the water, but they're using a system that I think the PID residents are paying for through assessments, and these people are basically, or these lots are tagging along. Is that pretty much it in a nutshell, or?
So these current lots, the assessment won't be there because, again, the developer is upfronting the cost and paying for that development, paying for all of those upfront costs. That cost, and Joshua, I don't want to speak for you, but the costs themselves will be pushed back into the sale of the lot.
Okay.
So where the PID is, it's turned into a 20-year assessment
Right.
to recoup those costs. This is going to be an upfront thing that is done and taken care of.
And this is really a town matter. I don't want to get too deep in it, but it's enlightening to know that the developer will be paying for all the infrastructure and then eventually, like the PID, donating it to the town.
That's correct. And also making sure that everybody understands that this is a town development and the district provides water and wastewater service and operational service to the town as a wholesale customer. So this is amending our wholesale agreement with them to provide the same levels of service. They're just adding additional areas of service to their town corporate area.
Okay, these ones at the far top left, is that cul-de-sac that I asked you about, saying they're not in the PID, but they're paying PID, or is that something else?
Which top area are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Green?
No, in the blue.
In the blue, that's up behind the high school
Yes.
property.
Yeah, it's a
It's
cul-de-sac.
neither town, it's within the town
Right.
corporate limits, but it is not town service area and not district area.
It's not in the PID,
Correct.
but in the Denton CAD, it says it's in the PID, I think.
But it's not.
I know, that's the point I'm making.
Correct.
Stuff, okay.
Everything you see in the green
Yeah.
is
the PID.
town service area and refunded by a PID.
Right,
It's still town infrastructure, still town boundary.
okay. And then that area to the bottom, you've got that problem fixed already by the hotel and the dentist
Correct.
office?
Correct.
Okay. And just FYI that they were in Tarrant County, but we were not getting mud taxes for it. So I asked Alan to check that out. And that's resolved?
And that, we're still in the process, but that's unrelated to this.
That's probably a couple billion right there.
This,
right?
it's not that much.
Oh, I know.
If it were, I would have already been able to tell you
Okay.
that.
Okay, so does everyone understand what's going on with this amendment? Mr. Rose?
I do have one other thing,
Okay.
if I make the motion. If you go to your packet page 55, and give everybody a chance to get there. And
Start
just
the-
above item 3, the next to the last sentence, you'll see September 20th, 2016.
Yep.
It kind of stats out there. I had a question on that. We ran it up through the attorney. I'm going to put a follow-on on that one, which will say as amended and/or restated. Because what that does is, in our base agreement here, the First Amendment to the base agreement does not contain any discussion of utility billing services. We have a separate interlocal agreement that does that, and it says all town. It refers to all town. So I ask about one, striking this or doing an addition on the back, because what happens is if that utility billing services agreement is amended, we would have to stay ahead of ourselves and know that we needed to come and also amend this. But by adding this onto the back of it, we're protected and we don't have to watch it that close. Make sense?
By adding as amended and or restated provides the autonomy for them to be able to us provide service and not have to go back and modify both documents if something were to change to the utility billing
Yep.
interlocal agreement in the future.
Okay. And as far as taxes, they're going to be treated like we tax the pit area because they won't be in the mud.
They will be taxed via town.
Right, but we'll bill the same rate as we do other Mud 1 like the
So
pit.
these lots, it will be the determination of the town how they want to provide the proportional share for these lots to the district as part of the annual maintenance and operation budget.
And the fire taxes will be.
Fire taxes are not involved on this as part of this agreement because it's out of district. We're not going to be taking this into the district to be able to tax them for fire service. It will be, I can't speak for town staff, and I'm not sure who to address this to, but my understanding is more than likely they'll come up with another PID surcharge. Right now, there's a PID surcharge. We take the valuations of properties and break that assessment per lot per year to assist the town with coming up with that surcharge per lot. So my understanding is they'll probably use the same type of methodology for these lots as they become developed, so they can pay their proportional share of the annual maintenance and operations fees for the district.
The pit gets charged a fire tax.
And that's embedded in the PID surcharge.
Okay.
So there's two charges. There's the fire assessment,
Yes.
and then there's a PID surcharge. So you're talking about two separate.
Don't worry about the pit surcharge. We already talked about the fire assessment is what my question is. Will these people be charged a fire assessment that will go into the fire, paying for the fire service?
There will have to be another set of rates set up, just like the PID, correct, for these properties.
Okay.
Be a whole nother assessment fee in lieu of a tax, because we cannot tax them for they're not in the district.
The way that this is set up is that there will be a similar structure as currently in place.
As the PID.
Correct.
That was my original question. You kind of went around the block and stuff.
This is a confusing topic. I apologize.
Okay. Do you agree with this contract?
This is recommended for approval based
Okay.
off of my discussions with town staff and both attorneys. This is recommended for approval as is.
Okay. Okay, everyone understand you made some changes in it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead.
I move to approve the First Amendment to the amended and restated contract for water, wholesale water and wastewater to the town of Trophy Club. And with the addition of, in item 2, next to last sentence, of after September 20th, 2016, as amended and / or restated.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Rose. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Vice President Brewster. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous. Okay. Agenda number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding the number of political signs per issue and per candidate allowed on the district property. We do have a request, a speaker. Councilmember Beach. How you doing tonight? If you don't mind, good. If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
Beach. My address is 2809 Sherwood Drive here in Trophy Club.
That matches this, so, okay, you can talk.
Thank
Okay.
you. As you know, I am running unopposed for election, and I don't see a need to put signs out. However, I would like to encourage you to address this issue for signage on the property so that we don't have chaos. And if you could adopt a policy that would be similar to the way the town has written theirs, or at least take into consideration requiring permission and some type of limit to the number of signs. I think that when that was enacted by the town, it eliminated driving down the street and seeing 35 and 40 signs like picket fences. And it would definitely add to the aesthetics of the town and the mud properties as a whole. So I would like to encourage you to consider developing a policy to do that.
Being on the council, how does the schools and churches, what policies do they have? The schools, not so much the churches.
My understanding would be that they would follow the town charter, but I have not researched that specifically.
Okay, the town has an ordinance regarding signs, political signs, to be specific, and they have, police and, enforcement agency. They don't really do much, but they do have the means of enforcing political signs.
Code enforcement, yes.
The mud does not have that. We're not in that business. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, you go to other communities and see like 100 signs on one piece of property, which is ridiculous. But there's a thing called rights in America, and you have to be very careful on people's rights and ability to put things on public property that they pay taxes to support. But I think, Tracy, you asked for this to be put on the agenda. Do you want to add anything? What's your solution to this?
Honestly, I would like to go straight to a motion.
But what's the motion? I mean, okay. If you want to make a motion, then we can discuss.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a policy regarding political signs. Anyone running for political office must obtain written permission from the MUD to plant a political sign on the fire department property, whereas such document is provided to the MUD staff or GM at least one business day prior to the placement of the sign on the fire department property. In addition, sign walkers with political signs should be prohibited.
I
Okay.
guess I'll sit down since you guys are going to motion.
Yeah, you can sit down. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Okay. Before discussion, it has to be a second, so anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a second by Vice President Brewster. Okay, discussion. As far as the legalities of it, I'd have to defer to our legal team as far as telling people that are walking with signs that they can't do that. I don't know if you can actually do that. People picket with signs all the time, and they're allowed to do that. So political sign, someone walking with political sign, I think would fall into that category. I'm not an attorney, so I would have to defer for an attorney on this. I do like the suggestion of someone asking for permission, because if something happens, we would know, the election's over. Another thing, there wasn't anything in that motion about the timeline on the motion, but it would be part of the policy, I take, correct?
That is correct. And,
Okay.
and I'd like to make a comment when you're finished.
Okay. And, but I do, like the idea of asking for permission, because then if they don't come and get the sign after the election, we don't have anybody to call except the name on the sign, which doesn't have a phone number. So, but I'll open the table to any further discussion. Mr. Rose?
I didn't hear any discussion on the limits of the number of signs, only a request for permission. So I failed to see a reason to even ask for permission if there are no limits.
There would be a
than-
limit of one. There's more to my motion. I only wrote part of it down. One sign per person running for political office, and to comment regarding sign walkers, actually, the town has part of their policy, a statement regarding sign walkers. It is prohibited, within the properties that they're overseeing. The times have changed from way back when we first moved to Trophy Club, and some of us have lived here quite a long time. Everyone has their own belief, what they want to vote for, what they believe in, what they don't believe in. And we can see with how the times have changed, some people may become hostile. And without adopting some sort of policy, we can have some sort of control over, minimizing such behavior. And I don't want to go anything that's related to, that's a police matter. That's not what I'm trying to do. My bottom line is I would like to adopt a similar policy, one sign per person running for political office, and to have written permission, including sign walkers with political signs are to be prohibited, especially on the fire department property. We don't want sign walkers because they could hinder an emergency. And we don't want to see that happen. We don't want that falling back on us. And yes, there is, the timetable, how many days prior you can plant your sign, how many days, I believe it's like 10 days. You have 10 days to remove your sign. There's more to it. This is just in a nutshell type deal.
Okay, you mentioned that we would enforce. We don't have an enforcement body to do that. As far as sign walkers or people holding signs, I mean, I was guilty of it standing on the corner. Bill did the same thing. A lot of people did it, and there was no accidents that I know of. People might have got close to being hit by cars, not paying attention. But as far as the fire department responding during election time, I've never heard one complain about it. I've heard complaints from a resident that came here about 6 or 7 months ago complaining about some harassment on our property. MUD's not in the harassment business. That's the police. You call the police for harassment.
We're going apples to oranges now. I just want to discuss my motion regarding political signs on the fire department property that the MUD owns. That person running for office receive written permission from the MUD, and that it is provided to staff or the GM 1 business day prior to placement of the sign on the fire department property.
You have anything to add?
I'd like to just ask, how closely does your motion track with what the town ordinance looks like? Is it the same? Is it intended to be the same?
It is very similar. And going back to the sign walkers to be prohibited, that is within the town policy for the signs. I would like for it to be very similar.
Can we adopt the same ordinance?
The district would have to establish its own order, establishing whatever policy you all decide, based off of recommendations from legal counsel as well, if you so desire.
But your first sentence, Alan, we'd have to establish what?
An order. It's called an order here. It's similar to an ordinance. There would have to be an order established.
In other words, it's not done with a motion.
Correct. You would want a policy in place to provide that guidance from a district
And I
perspective.
think Tracy said that is to create a policy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Do you, Mr. Rose?
I don't see a problem with people walking with signs. the town ordinance, if you go into the definitions of terms, you will find that it's illegal for a person to /hold a sign. In other words, you can't stand out there and just hold a sign. By their own ordinance, that's illegal. I think that's a violation or an infringement on free speech.
They don't enforce it. I've never seen them enforce it.
No. And what's the purpose of having something that you're not going to enforce?
That's the point. If you have an ordinance, enforce it. But on signs and things, the town has rarely enforced, their sign ordinance. And by the time you pull it, the election is over, or, by the time you give them time to pull the sign up and things of that nature. But again, I don't, on parts of your motion, I agree with as far as asking for permission on mud property, or for that matter, if you have any event on the property that's going to possibly hamper the fire department from responding and stuff. So, okay, any other discussion?
We have never, and I mean, as I drove in tonight, I don't see a problem with what's on the fire department. And the question is if you're going to do an ordinance, why would you do it just on the fire department only?
Well, it would be mud property.
Mud property.
Well,
Because there's property that we purchased by the apartments that,
yeah,
there's signs on.
yeah. So there's that, and so the question then becomes, is the sign ordinance going to apply to property by plats as the restrictions are applied on it? I mean, if it's one sign per plat, and then the question is, what size signs? I'll tell you right now, personally, anything bigger than the little yard signs, too big.
I believe, what is that, 18 by 24?
Probably. I think they're visual, not pleasant visually. Let's just go there.
Okay. Do you have anything, Doug?
No, I have to say kind of neutral about this, but I think the city has some pretty good ordinances in regards to signs. And if you start messing with it, you're talking about people's freedom of speech, and we've had some legal discussions about this.
Microphone.
And I know in Irving, I was pretty active politically, and what Irving does is allow people to place signs in the right-of-way on Friday, but then they have to pick them up on Monday, right? So you put them out before afternoon on Friday, and you pick them up before noon on Monday. We don't do that here, so it can be pretty congestive. And I think if a candidate puts out 100 signs in a 50-foot area, when I go to vote, I think about a candidate that has such bad taste to place his sign to make look very, very badly in an area. So, I'm just going to try and stay pretty neutral, but I'm falling down on to follow what the city does and keep the mud out of the political sign business and enforcing sign business. That's where I stand.
Okay, Tracy, do you have anything else to add?
I would just hope with the way, the sign of the times have changed, that we could do something that was good regarding political signs.
Okay, any further discussion? I see none. All in favor? Show of hands.
I don't know what the motion is.
She made a motion to have...
Then she said, excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, what I was going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the motion was to create a policy or process
Order.
to guide the political signs, basically. Allow the number, permission, and then you mentioned the walkers and stuff to not allow people to walk with signs. Is that in a nutshell? So the whole purpose is to create a policy on that.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's all we have. We don't have any documentation, I mean, nothing that's written that we're looking at here that we can.
All it is to go
flesh
forward
out.
with creating a policy. You got a blank slate right now, nothing. Okay, so all in favor, show of hands. Okay, Tracy and Vice President Brewster, all against. Okay, you got Secretary Treasurer Harper, myself, and Rose. Okay, moving on. Discussion and possible action regarding the Town Trophy Club / Westlake financial feasibility study concerning dissolution of the district. And I request that this go into closed session. Do we have an attorney ready to be called up?
Yes, she's ready.
So-
We'll make sure that she's connected.
I need to read all this stuff first. We'll go into closed session at 8:07, and pursuant to Section 551.071 of the
Can you have a speaker for this?
Texas Open Meetings Act, the board may consult with its attorney in executive session on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act, or to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. And this is going into executive session for discussion and possible action regarding the Town of Trophy Club / Westlake financial feasibility study concerning dissolution of the district. Item number 9. Do you want, and I apologize, do you guys mind waiting until after we come back, or do you want to talk before? Steve and Jeff, I think you were signed up?
I'd rather just say a word or two as you go in.
Okay, so I take that back. We're not going to go into executive session at 8:07. We have two people that want to speak. We have Steve Flynn, also a council member, and can you state your address?
Absolutely. Steve Flynn, 417 Ramsey Trail, beautiful Trophy Club, Texas.
Thank you.
So good evening, Mr. President, board directors, staff. Without having any discussion at the dais about what you're discussing, I believe there's two issues that and by the way, I'm on the subcommittee that has been talking about this issue for quite some time. Jeff is on the subcommittee as well, Ben and Kevin. So there's two issues that I believe you're going to be talking about, and I really just want to focus on one of them. I'll start with the first one that I don't want to focus on, which is a cost share. The Town of Trophy Club, Westlake, and the MUD has been asked to cost share in this feasibility study. You guys will decide that. I really don't want to go into that. I'd rather just talk about the feasibility study for a second. We've had a lot of discussions about the feasibility study. We did a lot of work on the MUD side and the town side to come up with what we are recommending as a supplier to do that, and it's Nugent. And I got to tell you, having sat up there, I know Nugent very well, and I know Chris very well, and they are a quality organization. So Westlake has agreed to use Nugent, the town certainly has, and I would highly encourage this board to do the same so they can move forward. And again, you have accurately reflected what we're talking about here. It's a feasibility study. So that's my comments. Thank you.
It's actually New Gen combined with your other company, isn't that? Like, what's the name of it, Keith? Or-
No, this proposal would be using New
Okay,
Gen.
so you
and-
okay.
Yeah.
You're just asking
Yeah, and
to
I'm
allow Chris
asking you, right.
to provide numbers and participate in the study.
Correct.
Now,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you utilize Kimley Horn on the backside of things, correct, for the
Yeah,
asset
but that's
valuation?
phase two, right. We're
That's
talking
correct,
about
but-
phase one only,
Correct.
right.
That's correct. This is just feasibility, looking at numbers, correct?
Yes, sir.
That is correct.
I will say there may be a small.
Can you go up to the
engineering
mic?
component as part of phase one.
Chris, do you mind coming up
Yeah.
to the microphone?
Apologize, sorry about that. As phase one has been written, there's a very small engineering component to that to help us with numbers. But beyond that, the engineering's phase two, so.
Yeah, for the most part, it's us giving you blessing to work with the town on their proposal.
Yes, sir. And to be clear, if you've read the proposal there, I would point you to the third paragraph on the first page. The only way we are involved in this is with the agreement of all parties.
Right.
Want to be very, very clear on that. I've got a very long relationship with the district. I do not want to jeopardize that relationship with the district or any future relationships with Westlake, who is also a client of ours, as well as the town. So the concept is this is done amicably. If it is not amicable, we will certainly step aside.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate Chris's point. I mean, obviously, they work with the town, they work with the mud. I can't think of anybody in a better position to do that than Nugent. So, thanks for the time, gents and ladies.
Jeff? Yeah. You only get 3 minutes after, though. 4 minutes now, 3 minutes later. No. Okay, we will now go into executive session at 8:12, and that's it. I don't have to read the other stuff again. I already read it. Okay.
He did, and then one of those guys wanted to make a comment, and so he made a comment, but then he restated the time.
Getting old too.
Huh? You guys were in that meeting in there? You know, it was 73 to 74, and I was so hot I couldn't stand it. He never does that. I was like, man, he's sick or something. I was like, I'm gonna turn it to staff. 30 minutes later, it's still 73. So as soon as he walked out, I ran in. I was 69, cooled off right away. Deal was.
You have this room so cold, and it's like hanging meat.
You did?
Hang.
Get 2 units.
You ready, Ben? Oh, Doug's still gone.
Then I went from
Kevin, I'd like to back you up.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. That-
you told him to.
Make sure that this last portion is part of our video.
On this one here, on 9, we have a speaker, so we have to address 9. But any action taken from going to executive session is actually in 11, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I would go back and reopen on 9.
That's what we're gonna go to, we never addressed it. Glad you can make it. We didn't rush you now, did you?
Somehow I got in last.
Okay. Did you take a number?
His jacket on.
Yeah. Okay, it is 9:32, and we're going to come back to regular session. Okay, we're at agenda number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the Town of Trophy Club Westlake financial feasibility study concerning dissolution of the district. And Jeff, I think now you're down to about 2 minutes, but. Well, you can come back, but if you have something to say before we take action. Okay, so we're gonna go to another agenda item, is what I'm saying. We're gonna go to what, consider an act regarding items discussed. So, excuse me?
11.
It's gonna be a different agenda item number. That's why I'm saying, you signed up for 9, and, I mean, you can speak on number 11 if you want. Okay, that's fine, just giving you that option. Okay, so we're going to go to agenda item 11, regular session, consider an act regarding items discussed in executive session. And that would be number 9 that we discussed. Is there any motions or?
I'll move to approve that the district participate in the financial feasibility study concerning dissolution of the district.
Okay, and then Alan, I think you had 2 other questions that you wanted us to address?
That's correct. The other one is whether or not the district has an issue and approves the utilization of NewGen as the feasibility consultant. And then third was, what representatives does the district want present during this process?
Okay, we'll take,
Cost share? First one was cost share.
right, that's, I'm
Correct,
gonna,
cost share was the first one. Does the
Okay,
district
so-
want to cost share?
do you mind addressing those A, B, and C? First one is cost share, second is allowing Chris to participate, and,
You need to put it down as one at a time.
yeah, but he has to make
Yes.
a motion first. Go ahead.
All right. I'll make a motion that the district participate in cost sharing for the feasibility study.
With no, not to exceed. not to
Mr.
ex-
Chairman, you want to handle each of these 3
Yeah.
with a separate motion and a vote, right?
I don't think we need to.
I think that you can handle all 3 if you do an A, B, and C.
And then do
Does the
amendments.
Do
All
you
right.
want a cost share? Do you want to utilize NewGen as part of this study? And 3, the participants you want
And then we'll
involved.
go through them if anything needs to be
I
amended.
would like to do each one individually.
Okay, we can
Divide
do
the
that.
issue?
It doesn't, I mean, okay, so
Divide the issue.
right now, we're going to address the cost share issue regarding the proposal.
Motion's been made, and
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, the only, if you would, just add not to exceed 1/3.
not
Since there's 3
to
parties.
exceed,
1/3 of the cost, which can be unknown, but not to exceed 1/3. If there's 3 parties, then we would only be obligated to pay 1/3, not 2/3 or 3/3 or,
not to exceed 1/3.
okay. And we have a motion. You have that, Lori? Okay. We have a motion and a second by Tracy, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now we have discussion. Anybody want to discuss? Yes? No?
Discuss.
Discuss cost sharing.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. My opinion on cost sharing is that I'm not in favor of the cost sharing. Chris has worked up some numbers for us that obviously he would utilize. And I think that's our, cost sharing of the process. It would save the town and Westlake considerable amount of time to use Chris's numbers, and that's my feeling that, it could be 14, 15,000, 1/3, it depends. I think your bid was around 46 or something like that. But I think it's well worth allowing Chris to use the numbers that he has produced for the mud that we paid for, a lot more than $15,000, but I think that's our cost share. That's my personal opinion. So I'm not in favor of the cost share on the motion that was made.
I agree totally 100% with that. We're going to have to, Water District staff is going to have to be involved in that as well. And somebody has to pay their salary. And we're also cost sharing that. So we've kicked in a lot to this operation by not cost sharing.
Okay. Anybody else?
I concur.
Okay. We're going to vote on just the cost share portion.
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Leaving me out.
Well, you made a second. I figured you'd just jump on in.
No, I'll jump on in.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I'm in the opinion that we should cost share if we would like to have a seat at the table. This feasibility study is going to happen, whether numbers have been presented prior. And it appears to me, the way I'm hearing it, a new feasibility study is going to happen, and the numbers that we provided prior are not going to be used. So for a small cost, my recommendation is to cost share.
Okay, well, they would come to the mud, as Doug mentioned, to get, any numbers. Why, reinvent the wheel if we already have those numbers that Chris's firm has provided? Chris, I hate to put you on the spot on this, but, wouldn't it be a time saving to use what data you already produced?
So there will be information that we have produced in the past that will go into this, as well as new information. So that, it's not going to be exclusive to only past work we've done. There's new elements to it as well that will be incorporated. So I'd say it's a mixture of both.
And it would be a time saving if we...
It's my opinion that it would be a time saving,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. You don't have anything else? You don't have anything? You have anything, Tracy? Any rebuttal? Okay, again, we're going to just vote on the cost share portion, which is the motion that Vice President Brewster made and Director Hunter second, about the MUD participating in cost sharing. All in favor of cost sharing? Show of hands. We have Vice President Brewster and Director Hunter. All opposed to cost sharing? Show of hands. Okay, we have Director Rose, myself, and Secretary Treasurer Harper, so that fails. Okay, moving on to B. This is just to address whether to allow the greatness of Chris to participate in all three towns in the proposal and provide numbers and his services. Okay, does someone want to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll move that Chris and NewGen participate in the feasibility study for the dissolution of the district.
Okay, I will second that. Okay, any discussion? Mr. Rose?
I will not be able to vote for this because I believe that we should retain NewGen for a review of the feasibility study at the completion.
So you could vote no, then?
Yeah, that's what I say.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of this.
Okay. Mr. Harper?
Well, I agree with Director Rose that it was nice to have an independent third party, our guy, looking at the results. But the time savings and the history and everything that's been done, I think we should allow NewGen to support this.
Okay. Tracy?
No comment.
None?
None.
Okay. Okay. This is only on allowing NewGen to participate in the town Westlake proposal on dissolution. Everybody understand that? Okay. All in favor of allowing NewGen to participate? Show of hands. Okay, we have Vice President Brewster, myself, Secretary Treasurer Harper, and Director Hunter. 4, all opposed. We have Director Rose opposing. It passes. Okay, and I just want to add that hopefully all three entities can be at the table, and the cost sharing doesn't have anything to do with it, that we aren't financially involved. We're all here as residents, and we all have a chip in the game. So hopefully everybody can work together. Next one is C. Someone want to make a motion on that?
How did we word C?
Alan, you want to restate what you need?
We're trying to determine who, if anybody, should be involved throughout this process representing the district.
Before you make a motion, can I ask either Steve or Jeff, and you don't have to answer it, but can you come up to the mic if you don't mind? Yeah, just out of curiosity, how many people, have you decided already on the people that are going to be at the table, or, you know, as far as, is it going to be a strategic committee and the mayor, and then the mayor of Westlake or town manager?
Well, it'll be the mayor of Westlake acting as town manager until he takes receipt of our current town manager. And then it'll be Wade and Steve and I.
So the council will have 2 representatives?
I anticipate that happening, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully that answered any questions on how many people will be there. Okay, so does someone want to make a motion on C?
Yes, I'll move that we participate in the feasibility study and that the general manager be a member of that participation team, and that the president of the district also participate, and that Doug participate in the feasibility study.
Do you have any problems with participating?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'm the best choice, but.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Brewster to include in the discussion the general manager, myself, and Secretary Treasurer Harper. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second by Tracy. Any discussion? I know, Bill, you had some interest in.
I'm interested. I'm known to be detail-oriented. I also have a background, strong background with the mud. And I think that if you want to put forward a strong team, you're going to take, for the representatives from the mud, you're going to take yourself and myself to get the knowledge level. And if one of us can't be there, then we have a similar capability to back up the mud and organization and representation at the table.
And you
Could we have a floating member? An undefined member?
No, because you end up with
You can't have
three.
three.
You can't have 3.
Yeah.
You can only, it's a subcommittee, and to keep from breaking the open meetings requirement, you can only have 2 from the mud.
Okay, we had a motion to include Secretary Harper and myself and the general manager. Does anyone else have any discussion on that? And you still want to do it, or?
If the board wants me to, I will.
Okay, well, we're going to vote on it.
Okay.
And stuff. But I just want to make sure that you accept his nomination.
Say yes.
I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to pass. I'm going to vote present.
Okay?
Now, you're still employed, correct? I mean, you still have a full-time job in the day, so it might interfere with your work schedule for you to be there,
Possible.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you might not, I can make pretty sure all the meetings, and you may not. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But, we're going to vote because
I've
you're.
never missed a board meeting.
Yeah, I have no problem with either of you being on there. I just want to make sure that you're okay, that you're not, doing it because you were nominated. If you're sure, then we're going to vote on the motion that was made.
I'm sure.
Okay, that's all I want to hear. And you're sure that you want to be on it too, right? Okay, so we're going to vote on the motion that Mr. Brewster made. Myself, Secretary Treasurer Harper, and the General Manager. So, all in favor of the vote? Okay, show of hands, and you're not voting, right? Right. Okay, so I have Vice President Brewster, myself, and Tracy, Director Hunter.
I'll support.
Okay, you're supporting too?
Yeah, I'll support him.
Okay,
Because
so
it's-
we have Director Rose, Vice President Brewster, myself, and Director Hunter. Okay, all opposed? Put your hand up there. Okay, okay, no opposed, and we have Secretary Treasurer Harper not voting, he's abstaining. You got all that? Does that answer your questions?
Yes, that's the questions they had, yes.
Okay, next. Do you have any, I called upon you, but you have the option to come up and say something if you want. Okay. It's not going to change anything, but, you know, if you want to stand there and talk to us, you know. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 12, items for future agenda. Do we have anything?
I'd like to request something. The Fire Services ILA is coming up for review in October. I'd like to know, I think we should know, what major steps would be required in transferring property, land and buildings and equipment to the town. The idea is we're in the wastewater business, and McLean's recommendation back in 2009 was that in order to simplify the organization and the way the entities work with each other, that fire services be transferred to the town. They are in the business of public safety, and we're in the business of water and wastewater. And I understand there are some implications there with Westlake. That's why I'd like to see it addressed at this point. And I'd ask that the general manager work with the town and our attorney in identifying the major steps that may be required to achieve that.
Okay,
I'll
so
second that.
to simplify, you just want to have discussion on the fire ILA and plans of the town taking over the fire.
Implementation procedures.
Yeah, implementation, good, thanks for the word. So implementation procedures, I just thought of that. So,
Oh, you need two people?
Yeah, I'll back it.
Future agenda?
Yeah,
Excuse me?
I'll do
Oh, you
it.
need two people?
I'll do
Future
it.
agenda item?
I'll do it.
You
I'll do
said
it.
that at the last meeting?
No,
Yes, you did.
it was to put it back, you had an
Kevin,
agenda.
I'll
item.
do it.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Agree.
he
For,
agrees.
for clarity, if I may, for clarity, is there something in particular you all want to see as part of this? We can provide you some of our current budget numbers. The town manager and I have had this discussion, and they're waiting to see what their property valuations come back before they proceed with this discussion. So I can't really bring you much from their perspective at this time, but I'll do my best to give you the general idea of what their thoughts are. Is that what you're looking for?
We need best effort at this point.
Okay.
I think, and to clarify, Tracy, if you call Alan and wanted to put something on the agenda, you need a second person. But in a meeting, I don't think you need a second
When I
person.
asked to
Yeah.
put the signs on the agenda,
you
you
really
said
should.
we
You
needed
really
a
should.
second person.
Yeah,
Really should,
okay, whatever.
'cause you're putting it on the agenda.
Okay. Anything else? You got anything, Doug? No, sir. You sure? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to set future meeting dates, April 19th, 2023, at 6:30 PM Central Standard Time. Okay? Anybody have any problem with that date?
No.
Okay, we're going to adjourn at 9:52.
Like the 9 o'clock, that's for sure.
Me too.